On the day my sister was brought back, our parents and brother, their faces alight with joy, could nevertheless hear the unspoken thoughts that echoed within me. How wonderful! My sister has finally returned, yet alas, father's project is on the verge of being usurped. Should I alert him at this very moment? With tears glistening in her eyes, mother gazed at my sister, poised to bestow upon her the family heirloom jade bracelet worth millions. Oh dear! Mother's relinquishment signifies a final farewell. Soon, my sister will feign a mishap, shattering the bracelet to test her standing in mother's affections. What a pity to squander such a fine treasure. My brother, brimming with excitement, was about to lift my sister into his embrace, while I tilted my head to observe him. Poor brother, his girlfriend presently sits upon the waist of his best friend. I wonder if he will still radiate such joy when, later tonight, she reveals her unexpected pregnancy. In that very next moment, my father's phone rang, shattering the atmosphere. My gaze remained fixed on my sister, seemingly oblivious to the frozen expressions of my parents and brother. Father hesitated for 2 seconds before answering the call, and moments later, his demeanor shifted drastically.
What?
All right, I understand. Setting down the phone, the joy that had illuminated his face at my sister's return quickly morphed into a peculiar expression, and even mother trembled as she spoke. Darling, what is it? Father cast a glance at me, his voice dry. We've just received word that our company's key project for the first half of the year has been intercepted by a rival, and it appears there is no room for recourse. I shook my head, unable to suppress my dismay. Father and brother have devoted half a year to this project, hardly returning home, and now it seems all their efforts have been in vain. Brother has endured endless ridicule from the rival company's heir for this loss. How embarrassing. In an instant, 2 pairs of eyes turned toward me. I noticed mother's hand hovering over the bracelet she was about to remove, sitting idly at the side. Now, mother was caught in a quandary whether to remove the bracelet or leave it on. It remained suspended in indecision. Meanwhile, my sister, perceiving mother's hesitation, delightedly approached and seized the jade bracelet from her wrist, disregarding the fleeting expression of pain that crossed mother's face. Mother, are you giving this bracelet to me? My sister affectionately lifted the bracelet with 2 fingers, embracing mother as she cooed. You always promised to pass down your treasures to me. How wonderful you are, mother. Unbeknownst to her, mother's eyes had suddenly filled with alarm as she prepared to don the bracelet. Then, in a twist of fate, the jade bracelet slipped from my sister's grasp and fell to the ground, shattering into fragments, an act that sent mother's face into a frantic spasm of disbelief. Oh no, mother. My sister pouted, feigning terror. I accidentally broke it. You won't hold it against me, will you? As she uttered these words, a fleeting look of triumph crossed her face, as if she were certain that their love and longing for her would outweigh the value of the shattered jade. However, when she raised her gaze, she was met with the undisguised shock etched on my brother Su Shijin's face. Oh no! Suddenly, Su Shijin's face drained of color as he hastily grabbed his phone and rushed out, seemingly to make an urgent call to his girlfriend. Mom and Dad, are you angry? I truly didn't mean to. Noticing the unease in our parents' expressions, my sister's large eyes quickly glistened with tears, and she began to apologize pitifully. Oh dear. Here we go again. It seems my sister will soon regale our parents with tales of her misfortunes since being abducted, invoking their sympathy. Little do they know, the substantial funds they've given her have merely been squandered on her whims. As anticipated, the next moment saw tears cascading down my sister's cheeks as she lamented how much she missed our parents after her abduction, recounting tales of being beaten, her body marred with scars that would never heal, forced to sleep in a dog cage, and subsisting on moldy food, with threats of being sent to a facility looming. Mom and Dad, just to be reunited with you, I truly feel so incredibly happy. I absently picked at my nails. My sister is about to unveil her so-called scars, but those marks are self-inflicted, merely a ploy to elicit sympathy.
Indeed.
Mother fell into the trap, seizing Su Shi's wrist to scrutinize the scabs, her voice quivering. Xiao Yi, did they do this to you? Su Shi recoiled slightly, her gaze flickering, yet she nodded, her voice choked with emotion. Yes, they hit me. They often beat me, saying I'm a burden, worthless. She clung tightly to Mother, whispering, I'm so glad to be back. Mama, I missed you so much. I grimaced. Her adoptive parents treat her better than her biological ones, lavishing her with generous allowances each month, yet she repays their kindness with deceit. It's revolting. She squandered that money on chasing after celebrities. Mother and Father exchanged a glance, their expressions darkening. Father patted Mother's hand, rising to say, I need to make a call to the office. I glanced at Father's retreating figure, concealing a smirk by adjusting my hair. Only I knew that he wasn't calling the office. Rather, he was sending someone to investigate the circumstances surrounding Su Shi's years away. How could someone as suspicious as father, after hearing so many heartfelt confessions, continue to trust Su Shi as he had before? After father left, Su Shi intensified her performance, lamenting about how she had been sent to a new family where she was left hungry and cold, forced to do endless chores. However, mother was noticeably less agitated than in a previous life, merely patting Su Shi's back in a somewhat perfunctory manner. I observed the scene, my expression remaining neutral. In my past life, I had played with the same young Su Shi, and while I was merely buying an ice cream, she had followed a seemingly affluent trafficker away. Despite my desperate pursuit from behind, I failed to catch up. When father, mother, and my brother discovered the truth, they placed all the blame on me, and I too believed I was a sinner. Thus, I endured 13 years of torment and abuse at their hands, living in a state of constant fear. Worse than a pig or a dog. It wasn't until I turned 20 that my sister was found. Upon her return, she effortlessly garnered the affection of the entire family, alleviating my guilt for not safeguarding her from being abducted. Yet she looked at me, raising her finger in accusation. She claimed that I had sold her to the traffickers, asserting that I was the extra child in the family. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been separated for so long. I missed you all so much. At that moment, the family's expression shifted dramatically, believing every word from the lips of Su Shi, who had been showered with affection since childhood. They turned and began to slap me, forcing me to kneel and apologize to Su Shi. My subsequent life was a continuous torment, devoid of a single day of peace. Only before my untimely death did Su Shi gloat over her reasons. I was fortunate. When we were poor, I didn't want to live in hardship, so I followed the traffickers and ended up with a bunch of wealthy parents. Alas, they went bankrupt just as I turned 18, but thankfully, I read about my parents' success in the newspaper, which led me back here. Otherwise, you would have enjoyed all this good fortune alone. I was taken aback by Su Shi's cunning and venomous nature. After dying with resentment, I found myself reborn in the very year Su Shi returned, discovering that I could manipulate the content of thoughts and designate recipients to hear them. I watched Su Shi nestled in Mother's embrace, the corners of her mouth curling up despite her attempts at feigning distress, and I couldn't help but smile. In this life, I wanted to see how my parents and Su Shi's brother would maintain their affection for Su Shi after uncovering her true nature. After father finished his call, his face was ashen when he entered, immediately spotting Su Shi weeping profusely, while mother gently soothed her back. I lowered my gaze, knowing that father had uncovered the truth about what transpired after Su Shi went missing. Alas, my sister is now set to cast the blame for her abduction squarely on me to garner attention from our family. True to form, Su Shi did not disappoint. Upon father's arrival, she stammered, "Daddy, when I was little, my sister took advantage of my inattention and pushed me into the hands of bad people. She said I was an extra child and that you would be happy if I disappeared." Su Shi raised her chin, looking at them with reddened eyes. Her voice soft and hesitant. "Is that really true?" If only she could have observed more closely, she would have noticed mother retracting her hand from patting her back. Even father furrowed his brow. I shrank back, my eyes instantly reddening. Father's tone was grave. "Xiaoyi, your sister would never do such a thing." Mother echoed, "Yes. Your sister, Wanqing, has always been a well-behaved and obedient child." Well-behaved and obedient? I thought they were oblivious. Hearing such praise, I felt a wave of sarcasm wash over me. In 2 lifetimes, this was the first time I had ever heard them speak positively of me. I had thought they only saw me as a disaster, a source of trouble. I sniffed, feigning hurt. "How could you accuse me, sister? You were the one who, as a child, disliked our poverty and deliberately chose to follow the traffickers. What does that have to do with me?" Upon uttering those words, I instinctively covered my mouth, as if I had inadvertently revealed a secret. Su Shi's expression changed abruptly, blurting out, "How did you know?" The room fell silent, and my parents' expressions darkened. Su Shi realized she had misspoken, her flustered attempts at clarification only deepening her predicament. As my parents' faces turned as dark as ink, Su Shi gritted her teeth and, with a roll of her eyes, fainted dead away. Su Shi suddenly slumped, collapsing straight to the floor. Mother and father were startled, hurriedly calling for a servant to carry Su Shi back to her room. I couldn't help but smirk. Her act was quite convincing. "Wanqing, tell me honestly, do you know anything about your sister?" Mother inquired cautiously, a hint of suspicion in her tone. I instinctively waved my hands, shaking my head vehemently. I don't know. I truly have no idea. In my past life, it was Sushi's lies that left my parents utterly disappointed, ultimately leading to my tragic demise, and they, along with my brother, suffered because of her. In this life, I absolutely must not repeat the same mistakes. I must protect my parents and my brother. The expressions of my parents visibly wavered as they exchanged glances. That night, I quietly approached the door to my parents' room. Darling, so you can hear Wan Qing's thoughts too? Is what she said really true? Mother's voice was soft, trembling slightly. But how long has Xiaoyi been back? Father sighed. I scoffed quietly and turned away. I knew their affection for Su Shi would not easily falter, but that was of no consequence. I would ensure that this trust, polished by memory, would eventually shatter. After visiting the kitchen, I carried a cup of warm milk towards Su Shi's room. Upon opening the door, I found her gazing greedily at a wardrobe filled with designer clothes, gifts from our parents upon learning of her return. It's quite ironic. After our family's rise, I would be chastised for wearing anything over 100, yet for Su Shi, they would have almost plucked the stars from the sky for her. Upon seeing me, Su Shi immediately donned a fierce expression, striding toward me with aggression. Su Wanqing, what nonsense did you spout in front of our parents this afternoon? When did I ever say I disliked being poor? You didn't say it. But you did when I was on the brink of death in my previous life. I regarded her with a smirk. In my past life, while Su Shi had tormented me in various ways, she had also revealed her reasons behind her actions. It merely stems from the feeling that after her departure, I have assumed her position and enjoyed a comfortable life since our parents' rise to prosperity. Despite their repeated assertions that I have lost my sister, making my existence difficult in her absence, Su Shi remains discontent. She insists that she must be the sole cherished daughter of the Su family, lavished with affection by our parents and Su Shijun. To placate her, those three have turned a blind eye to the torment and humiliation I endure at Su Shi's hands, and have even participated in it, until I am driven to the brink of despair. I offered a smile to Su Shi, feigning ignorance of her earlier hostile remarks as I extended the warm milk in her direction. Sister, you fainted this afternoon, and you must be hungry by now. I've warmed some milk for you. Please have a sip to settle your stomach. Su Shi gazed at the milk, suddenly silent, her eyes flickering as if in contemplation. However, I keenly heard the faint sound of footsteps approaching from behind the door. Oh no, I forgot. In my previous life, it was the milk I offered her that led to her claiming I had poisoned it. I recalled with a pang of panic. No matter how I tried to explain to our parents, they refused to listen, locking me in the basement for 3 days and nights, nearly starving to death due to her deceit. In a sudden fit of anxiety, I withdrew my hand that held the cup, only to have Su Shi seize it, wrest the milk from my grasp, and tilt the cup back, drinking it all in one go. After finishing, she looked at me with a sense of triumph. Su Wanqing, are you not a cow? Today, I shall show you who is truly the most important daughter of the Su family. With that declaration, Su Shi hurled the cup to the ground, clutching her stomach as she feigned pain, her face still adorned with a smug expression. My stomach hurts. Sister, why are you trying to harm me? At that moment, the door creaked open. Su Shijun stood there, his expression dark as he observed Su Shi's theatrics, his gaze towards me laden with unspoken words. Oh, so the one outside is the green-haired turtle. Brother, she poisoned the milk. My stomach hurts so badly. Su Shi cried, pointing an accusatory finger at me. I did not poison it, I exclaimed, raising my head with reddened eyes, looking at Su Shijun with a face full of grievance. Yet, when Su Shijun looked back at me, his expression bore a softness I had never seen before. He bent to pick up the shards of the cup, inspecting the milk that still clung to them, his tone icy. Whether Wanqing poisoned it or not is not for you to claim. I will have it tested to discern the truth from lies. His words nearly made me roll my eyes. It seemed he had a brain after all. In my previous life, when Su Shi had accused me of enticing Su Shijun, he had beaten me without discernment, and I had thought him dim-witted. A flicker of shock crossed Su Shi's previously triumphant expression. But she quickly clutched her stomach and weakly said, Brother, perhaps I ate something wrong this afternoon, so my stomach started to hurt. I may have misunderstood my sister. I cautiously spoke up, Xiao Yi, you haven't eaten since you fainted this afternoon. Could it be that you are simply hungry? Su Shijun's gaze shot up, the coldness in his eyes directed at Su Shi. Do you not know if you have eaten? To lay the blame on your sister, who kindly brought you milk, is shameful, Su Shi. Do you still have any dignity left? The commotion soon attracted our parents. What is going on here? Mother asked, her face puzzled.
Susihun is nered.
Sushi has framed Wanqing for poisoning her, yet now claims her stomach hurts and might be hungry. Father, looking impatient, interjected. How old are you? Still throwing childish tantrums. Enough, disperse. With Father's words, Su Shijun and I had no choice but to leave. As I closed the door to Su Shi's room, I caught a glimpse of Mother tenderly holding her, clearly distressed. After all, she was the precious daughter they had lost for over a decade. Had the roles been reversed, I would not have received such compassion. I followed Su Shijun out of the room, and after a few steps, he halted, gazing at me in silence for a moment before finally speaking. Wanqing, what do you think of my friend Cui Yuqian, who often visits? Isn't he the one who betrayed Su Shijun? I smiled. Su Shijun was indeed blind, failing to notice the obvious chemistry between Cui Yuqian and his girlfriend. I feigned hesitation, stammering, I just think his character is somewhat questionable. Brother, please don't ask me. Mother and Father say it's not polite to speak ill of others. Where do you see his character as lacking?
Susihun prest.
I nervously waved my hands. No, I was just speaking off the cuff. Surely I cannot disclose that in my previous life, Cui Yuqian not only cuckolded my brother but also colluded with my sister to tarnish his reputation? How pitiful my brother was. In his last life, he died unaware of the rumors about his supposed dysfunction and mental instability spread by his beloved sister, Su Shi. Su Shijun's face turned pale. I didn't wait for him to inquire further. I swiftly made my exit. The following day at the dining table, the atmosphere was peculiarly tense. Aside from Mother occasionally serving sushi, everyone else bore expressions of concealed thoughts. Finally, Su Shi broke the silence. Mother, Father, when will it be officially announced that I've been found? Su Shi smiled sweetly. Our Su family is no longer a small household. I am a daughter of the Su family after all. We should inform the outside world that there is a second young lady of the Su family, right? As soon as she finished speaking, my expression froze. In my previous life, I had been framed by Su Shi, locked in the basement without a drop to drink, starving to the point of hallucination, all while hearing the joyous laughter outside. At that time, our parents and Su Shijun had hosted a grand banquet to celebrate Su Shi's return, publicly announcing her as their beloved little princess. Under the family's adoration, Su Shi grew increasingly tyrannical, inflicting even more torment upon me. Even in this rebirth, the mere thought of the past suffering instinctively filled me with dread,
causing me to gag.
I covered my mouth and retched, immediately drawing the attention of several at the table, and my heart raced with alarm. Oh no! I'm about to be slandered by my sister again. But I merely have a bit of a stomach issue. Should I show Father and Mother my medical records to prove it? Sister, what is wrong with you? Su Shi feigned surprise, covering her mouth, her gaze drifting towards my abdomen. Could it be that you are pregnant? She cast me a sly glance. Sister, didn't you always want to marry young? Have you changed boyfriends dozens of times now? Tell me, is your current boyfriend the black man you adored as a child? Father's expression darkened.
Shaoi.
Do not speak such nonsense. I inwardly scoffed, my eyes glistening with unshed tears, looking pitifully vulnerable. This is infuriating. My sister is indeed fabricating stories. But how can I persuade our parents not to hold a welcome banquet for her? In my previous life, my sister took advantage of the celebration to meet the son of a rival company, even plagiarizing a project my brother had worked hard on, leading him to face legal trouble and causing the company significant losses. Alas, the company had already lost an important project after her return. If my brother encountered issues as well, how would this family survive? Su Shijun's expression shifted drastically. I object, he exclaimed, rising abruptly, his tone grim. She does not even understand basic etiquette. How can she present herself as a lady of a prestigious family? Let her learn the rules first. Otherwise, even if we announce her as the daughter of the Su family, it will only bring shame. Yet Mother appeared hesitant, casting a sympathetic glance at Su Shi, clearly wanting to defend her. Wonderful. Thus, she found herself bereft of the opportunity to become acquainted with that man, and even less chance to pilfer her mother's cherished jewelry to curry favor with his mother. The expression on her mother's face also shifted, echoing, sure, Jean is right. A girl ought to pay attention to her demeanor and upbringing. The smile on Su Shi's face faltered, a flicker of resentment flashing in her eyes. Humph. She abruptly shoved her chair back, exclaiming, what rules? It's as if the Qing dynasty hasn't perished. I see that you all do not genuinely welcome my return. With that, Su Shi left the dining hall without a backward glance. Meanwhile, her father, who was always concerned about appearances and enjoyed being revered by his children, wore an increasingly grim expression. Later, Sushi endeavored with various tactics to secure a grand welcome celebration for herself. However, with her mother and Su Shijin's vigilant watch, coupled with her father's subtle disapproval of his seemingly wayward daughter, the celebration ultimately did not materialize. Nevertheless, being a daughter of the Su family, her return necessitated a continuation of her education. Her father directly donated a building, allowing Su Shi to attend university alongside me under the guise of a distant cousin. He even provided her with a supplementary card to facilitate her acquisition of clothing and pocket money. Yet, Su Shi remained as she had always been, greedy, selfish, and self-righteous. No matter how much she obtained, it was never enough. On her way to school, she sat in the back of her family's luxury vehicle, venting her frustration. Am I not his biological daughter? Is it so difficult to articulate? What distant relative? I am his flesh and blood. Has this old fool lost his mind? A supplementary card with merely a 200,000 limit. How miserly. What can this paltry sum even accomplish? I set my book down, speaking gently. Xiao Yi, father has taken great care of you. This amount is sufficient for many purchases. After all, I had to rely on part-time work to earn my living expenses even now. Mind your own business. Su Shi glared at me, her voice laced with feigned concern. You certainly wish for me to suffer. Perhaps that old fool has bestowed upon you even more. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the driver in the distance frowning involuntarily. He was one of my father's trusted aides, and typically held sway in front of father. Both Su Shijin and I maintained a polite demeanor towards one another. It was likely that as soon as we alighted from the vehicle, Su Shi's words would reach father's ears verbatim. In the days that followed, Su Shi squandered her father's card with reckless abandon, purchasing designer handbags and limited edition sneakers, as if to compensate for the 13 years of deprivation she had endured. In contrast, I maintained my exemplary academic record, frequently suggesting suitable investment projects during family dinners that led to substantial profits for my father. My dutiful demeanor sharply contrasted with Su Shi's increasingly erratic behavior, prompting father to frown each time he looked at her. One evening after dinner, father called to both Su Shi and me as we prepared to leave. Xiao Yi, I have reviewed your final report card, and it is, quite frankly, disappointing. Look at your sister. She consistently ranks first in her department and has accumulated countless scholarships and certificates. His tone was laced with evident reproach. How could there be such a disparity between two children born of the same parents? Su Shi's eyes reddened, tears cascading down her cheeks. Father, I know I have not performed well, but that is because I have not received a proper education since childhood. As she choked on her words, she cast a furtive glance at me, implying that unlike her, I had enjoyed the finest resources from the family since my youth. Enough. Father interjected, unable to contain his frustration. You know very well how much your adoptive parents provided you each month. Do not play the victim before me. The moment she mentioned her past, father's expression darkened. Observing Su Shi's lack of ambition, father slammed his hand on the table. There are matters I would rather not articulate. But do not presume I am a fool. I have had inquiries made. You were sold to a family, and they were decent people. Had your foster parents not gone bankrupt within 2 months and you hadn't deceived them out of their last savings, they would not have taken their own lives by jumping into the river. Even if you have not been with us for over a decade, how can you live so selfishly? Sometimes, in moments of silence, one cannot help but laugh. Those unaware would think that every member of the Su family is exceptionally kind and forgiving. In truth, they are all self-serving, only leaping to action when their own interests are at stake. Su Shi is merely a product of her environment. Su Shi's face turned pale as she attempted to defend herself. Mother and Su Shijin remained silent, and I spoke up. Father, Xiao Yi has just returned. She may still be adjusting. Please allow her a little more time. Father frowned at me. Wan Jing, you need not speak on her behalf. If she cannot demonstrate her own worth, she shall continue to live as your distant cousin. Our family does not harbor idlers. Upon hearing this, Su Shi was utterly stunned. She had originally believed that simply returning to the Su family would afford her a life of luxury and indulgence. Yet she now faced the possibility of losing her identity as a daughter of the Su family. Yet it was precisely due to Su Shi's lackluster performance and my apparent role as a caring sister that, with Su Shijin's assistance, and after father reviewed several of my planning proposals, I was summoned to his study. Wan Jing, I see that you possess considerable talent in business. Why not come help me at the company? Father smiled at me, his gaze filled with admiration. I was not surprised but expressed my gratitude profusely. Thank you, father. I will certainly strive to excel. Since my entry into the company, Sushi, who had initially attempted to maintain a fa aude, abandoned all pretense. Each time she saw me, her expression grew fierce, as if she wished to tear a piece of flesh from me. When I encountered her at the school gate, she clutched her newly purchased limited edition handbag tightly, her expression shifting like the weather. I glanced at Sushi and, taking advantage of the absence of onlookers, laughed lightly. Some individuals only know how to spend money. No wonder father favors me over you. You may not yet be aware, but I have proposed to father a reduction of your allowance to 5,000 a month. I truly wonder how you will squander that. Sushi's face flushed crimson as she stepped forward, pointing an accusatory finger at me. You. Grinding her teeth, Sushi spat. You wretched girl. Ever since I returned, you've been sowing discord. The state I am in now is all you're doing. If I don't teach you a lesson, you will truly think you can step all over me. As she spoke, she made to strike me, only to be intercepted by the driver sent by father. Miss Sue. Please maintain your composure, he said, his expression unyielding. Sushi exploded, barking insults at the driver. What are you to stop me? Just you wait. And you, Su Wanjing. I will not let you off easily. Once I was inside the car, the driver could no longer restrain himself. Miss. The second young lady's temperament, I interrupted him gently. Uncle Wang, let us not trouble father with these trivial matters. I do not wish to cause him concern. After all, if father intervened now, how could Sushi proceed with her plans for revenge against me? I smiled and shook my head, turning my attention to the collaboration materials on my phone. Indeed, within a few days, scandalous photos of me surfaced on the campus internet. The images were poorly edited, yet sufficient to cause a stir. Sushi led the charge in mocking me on the forum with the most vicious words. Faced with the myriad of scrutinizing gazes, I calmly gathered all evidence and dialed the police. Seeing my actions, Sushi, who had instigated the mockery, suddenly panicked and rushed towards me to snatch my phone. What are you doing? Calling the police? I replied calmly. You mustn't call the police. Sushi's face turned ashen. Is it such a big deal to call the police? It's just a few people looking at you. It won't cost you anything. Why are you so precious? I found her response amusing. It's not you who is being maliciously slandered. Why are you so anxious? You're not the one being defamed, are you? Sushi refused to acknowledge it, her eyes flickering. I'm laughing so hard. What does this have to do with me? With a stoic expression, I pressed the alarm button. Fine, let Uncle Hat come to investigate. Upon witnessing my determination to call the police, Sushi panicked.
Wait.
It was me, so what? Just a lesson for you. Excellent. I was waiting for you to say that. Swiftly, I delivered a resounding slap across her face, seizing the moment before Sushi could interject. Have you lost your mind? Sushi? Do you think you are targeting me? You are tarnishing the Su family's name. I am the daughter of the Su family. Any trouble I encounter reflects upon the entire clan. Sushi, however, could hardly grasp the gravity of my words. With a shriek, she lunged at me, and I met her challenge with equal fervor. After all, I had envisioned giving Sushi a thorough beating for quite some time. Before long, this farce concluded with the arrival of our parents, summoned by the school. Their faces were ashen, and after I briefly recounted the events, Sushi cried out in protest, adamantly accusing me of framing her. My mother gazed at Sushi with disappointment, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Xiao Yi, how could you do this? My father delivered a heavier slap to Sushi's face than mine. Sushi, how can you be in the wrong when your sister speaks the truth? You have brought shame upon your own sister. I am utterly disappointed. From now on, you are to stay at home and not go anywhere, lest you embarrass us further. Sushi, clutching her face, screamed, You are biased. You always side with her. She shot me a venomous glare, and it was evident that if our parents were not present, she would have lunged at me once more. What has become of this child? My mother could no longer contain her sorrow, tears streaming down her cheeks. I approached her gently, wrapping my arms around her in a comforting embrace. Compared to the vitriol spewing from Sushi, I felt like the epitome of a dutiful daughter. Yet, even after being grounded, Sushi was far from compliant. After surreptitiously taking one of my mother's cards, she began frequenting various entertainment venues. Upon seeing photos of Sushi nestled against a bearded man, I smirked and directly dialed the bar owner. About that sick model we discussed last time, I can certainly arrange for my dear sister to meet him. Before long, under my clandestine orchestration, Su Shi was entangled with a dashing model who, despite his illness, captivated her attention. After nearly a month of this reckless escapade, our family finally managed to share breakfast together again, though Su Shi appeared lackluster, occasionally licking her lips as if parched. Feigning curiosity, I asked Xiao Yi, "What is wrong with your mouth?"
Su Shin, ever observant, pride Su Shi's mouth open.
"What is this?" he exclaimed, horrified. Inside Su Shi's mouth were white, cauliflower-like ulcers, prompting our parents to immediately rise.
To the hospital. Right now.
Initially resistant, Su Shi was ultimately forced to comply with my father's insistence. The diagnosis came rapidly. She had contracted genital warts due to her reckless lifestyle. Moreover, as my father interrogated her about the situation, she attempted to defend herself, but was overtaken by waves of nausea. My retching stemmed from disgust for her, while her own was the unmistakable result of pregnancy. Upon receiving this revelation, my father's eyes rolled back, and he fainted on the spot. After my father collapsed, Su Shijin and I were thrust into the roles of managing the family business. Known for his grudges, Su Shijin recalled my earlier remarks about how Su Shi had wronged him and promptly sent her to a so-called rehabilitation center. When my father regained consciousness, he discovered he had been rendered paralyzed from the shock. However, the damage was done. He had no choice but to entrust the company to us, forgetting that his son was far from competent. Su Shijin lacked any business acumen, relying solely on hard work and my father's guidance. Now that my father was incapacitated and required rest, Su Shijin, having begun a new romantic relationship, transferred the bulk of the responsibilities onto me. Of course, I felt no sense of injustice. Instead, under the guise of caring for my brother, I took on every task and discreetly shifted crucial projects to my own company. Ever since my rebirth, I had quietly established my own enterprise, and from the outset, I had been reallocating accessible assets. Now, the scope for maneuvering had expanded significantly. Su Shijin's negligence and my father's helplessness provided me with ample opportunity. From the very beginning, my targets extended beyond Su Shi, recalling my past life. My parents had stood by as I endured torment at Su Shi's hands, even participating in it. I had become the family's outlet for their frustrations. And if it were not for their indulgence, Su Shi would not have been so brazen. In my previous life, their complicity had sealed my fate. They were all culpable, and none would escape justice. While Su Shijin claimed to be abroad seeking a renowned doctor for my father, he was, in fact, vacationing with his new girlfriend. By the time he returned, Su's stock had plummeted, and I had thoroughly drained the company of its resources. Furious, Su Shijin barged into my office.
Su Banking.
"What have you done?" I feigned innocence. "Brother, what are you talking about?" "I'm merely following father's orders." "Oh, brother, it's all father's fault."
Don't blame me.
Su Shijin regarded me with skepticism, but after reviewing the recent financial statements I had intentionally left behind, he eventually accepted my words. My father had engaged in tax evasion, transferring control of the company to Su Shijin to evade responsibility, effectively setting him up to take the fall. Believing my deception, Su Shijin rushed home to confront our incapacitated father.
Dad.
"Why did you do this? Why have you betrayed me?" My father, still confused, struck Su Shijin with his only functioning hand. Enraged, Su Shijin shoved him away, and my father's head collided forcefully with the bedpost, rendering him silent. At this moment, Su Shijin was utterly stunned, believing he had accidentally killed someone. Stumbling, he fled the house, speeding toward the airport. However, on the highway leading to the airport, his car collided head-on with a large truck, resulting in his immediate demise. When I visited Su Shi in the rehabilitation center, she reeked of filth and appeared mentally unwell. Yet, upon seeing me, she reverted to her menacing demeanor, which amused me. "Sister, how have your days been in here?" I asked with a smile. "Oh, I almost forgot. After your reckless words, you've lost half your tongue." It seemed Su Shi had also been reborn, albeit at a different juncture. Upon realizing the circumstances in the rehabilitation center, she screamed that I was a monster for having returned. As a shareholder in the rehabilitation center, I had received the news promptly and dealt with it accordingly. Sitting opposite her, I exuded the vitality that came from my newfound success. By the way, I forgot to mention that we just held my brother's funeral. Isn't it quite the coincidence that he had a car accident shortly after leaving home? TSK. Moreover, he was reduced to ashes. Even the coroner struggled to extract my remains, so I simply filled the urn with dog food, just a token gesture, really. Though my father had survived the shove from my brother, The external trauma combined with the shock had left him in a vegetative state. I found a care facility for him at a mere $500 a month, and currently, he remains alive. Sushi stared at me with fierce intensity, attempting to grasp my neck through the iron bars but always falling short. And then there's mother, I continued, grinning at her. After all that has transpired, she has been quite shaken, often appearing in a daze. I've conveniently placed her in a psychiatric hospital next door, where I also have shares, so rest assured. I stood up, brushing off non-existent dust, my smile deepening. As for you, I will ensure that you and our parents are well taken care of in your remaining days. After all, we are family. As I departed, satisfied by Sushi's futile struggles and indignant huffs, I couldn't help but chuckle. The days ahead are plentiful, yet one cannot ascertain how much longer my beloved family will endure. The narrative concludes here. Thank you for your attentive listening. And until we meet again for the next tale.